We are recording now, and so welcome to our first. Unfortunately, Jeff is not able to attend right now, so welcome to our first virtual general meeting of the Quad Cities Astronomical Society. So, as vice president, I'll be acting chair of the meeting, and I tell you right now, it's my first time doing something like this. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, which I suppose makes me very good presidential material. I think a good idea to start is anybody not familiar with WebEx? Yeah, okay, so some of you are not. Well, so probably a good idea to run through some of the basic controls. So at least during the training I've had with it, you move your cursor down toward the bottom of the screen, and you should see a bunch of icons appear. There's the microphone icon, which toggles between mute and unmute. The camera icon lets you turn off or on your video if you don't want anybody to see you during the meeting. And then let's see this, yeah, like that. And then there's another icon, is like in an open box with an arrow pointing up with it. This is if you want to share content from your own computer, like if you want to share your screen or share a file for doing presentations. The next one, that's the record icon. Well, at least that's what I've got. I'm as the host, I have a lot more controls than participants do. This participants icon. Another good one. This talking bubble icon, speech bubble icon, that opens up the chat room. So you can use that to text each other during the meeting if you're muted and don't want to start talking in front of whoever's speaking, or if you want to ask questions of the presenter during a presentation. More options there. And let's see. I think as far as participants go, that's like that's the basics. Now, as far as I know, if you host a meeting, you have to download the software from WebEx's website. It's a free download, so that's a good advantage. As a participant, though, all you need to do is click on the email link that is sent to you when the meeting is sent in. Someone just joined us. Who goes by the name I Drink Crumpnick? I Drink Crumpnick. Would you mind? Could you sign in, please? I just unmuted you, so you can just tell us.
Either Jeff or Dana. Probably Jeff.
Who's just joined the meeting? Hello? Can you hear me now? Well, all right.
Yes, Ron Mullen just joined the meeting.
Ron Mullen, okay. Oop, what happened? Pardon me while I get this typed in. Okay.
Oh, there's Paul.
Paul Seeger, yes.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Paul.
How's it going?
Oh, not bad.
Got a few.
Good.
Yeah.
Hey, Craig. It's been forever.
I've just been giving participants a quick primer on some of the controls for WebEx, how to mute and unmute the microphone, how to turn your video off and on, share content on a screen.
Wow, the list of people goes on and on.
You can see a participant list from where you are?
Yes. You just got to keep scrolling.
Yeah. The way I do it, one of the icons at the bottom of the screen looks like kind of like a bust of someone with three little lines. That opens and closes the participant list on the right-hand side of the screen. So we can see who's here.
There we go. Yeah, I tried to download the app and it was just taking forever. So I just did the open in the browser.
Well, if you're just participating in the meeting, you don't actually need the software. You just have to click on the email link that's sent to you.
Yeah, it gives you the option to install a little client or just use a browser, and I just did the browser. The client was taking forever.
Well, I suppose it depends on your internet connection.
Excellent.
Very good. All right. So just want to quick practice the camera icons so you can get the feel of stopping and starting your video. Make sure that's working. I can tell you that for some people, particularly those with slow internet connections, it helps to turn off your video so that you don't have to upload and download so much data. Doesn't prevent from slowing things down. Does anyone have any questions about WebEx, about how to use it? You can either unmute your microphone or you can type a question in the chat room.
I want to make sure that you guys can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I had to put in a USB mic because I couldn't find my Bluetooth dongle. I want to make sure there's not a bunch of feedback on this.
No, sounds great.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm just using my whatever's built into my laptop. I didn't dig up my headset.
We do recommend muting your microphone if you're not speaking, just to ease up on the data and prevent feedback. So, one good thing about the participants list, I can take care of the roll call right now. All right. So, has anyone here not been to a meeting for a while? John, Craig? Yeah, I can't see everybody all at once in this. Let's see. Let me try something here. I think there's some way where I can actually see everybody, participants.
Hey, Robert, you're running the app, right?
Yeah, I'm running the app, yes.
Top right, there's an icon. There's two icons. The one to the left is your three different views.
Yeah, I click grid view.
Yeah, grid view, you'll see everybody.
Thumbnail video. And let's see. Grid view, that's got it. Yep. Yes, very good. I'd still like to know who I Drink Krumpnik is.
Well, there's somebody calling from a mobile, so if I have to guess,
That's good. That's gonna be John. I'm guessing that's his bourbon.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're not. I drink
That's Jeff.
Krumpnik.
I'm about 99% certain that's Jeff. He's listening in.
Okay, well, if that is you, Jeff, glad you could make it to the meeting. So, all right. So does anybody have any questions on the WebEx software? And please bear in mind, I don't know everything about it myself, but nobody's moving. Okay. All right. So Jeff sent me a rough agenda for tonight's meeting. So next is to welcome any guests and maybe, or any guests joining the meeting. Maybe they'd like to give a brief introduction. Doesn't
look like it.
Just looks like just regulars here today. Okay, and then, well, then the next thing he put on the agenda was my presentation. So give me a minute here to set it up. So I'm ready to go. So if you saw the email that Jeff sent out, I can give a little bit of background. I attended the 235th meeting of the American Astronomical Society this past January, which, at the risk of making people jealous, was in Honolulu, Hawaii. And some of the displays and some of the talks at the meeting were on Polynesian astronomy, Hawaiian astronomy, how it related to ancient Hawaiian culture and cultures of other indigenous peoples in the Pacific region. And so I based this meeting off off a couple of displays there. I'll see if I can get the content set up. So simplest if I just share my screen here and then set up from there. So here we go. Come on. Yep, there. So astronomy was very important to Polynesian cultures. That's the way they navigated back and forth across the Pacific Ocean. And to start off with, I thought wouldn't be a bad idea to give you a quick primer in the Hawaiian language, which is going to show up quite a lot during this presentation. So first of all, in the Hawaiian language, they only have 8 consonants, which are listed here. So, and also some examples of exactly how they're pronounced in Hawaiian. H, as in hand, it's pretty much the same way we pronounce it. K is kind of like the quick little K in skin. L is in leg. M is in mark. P is in spool. Again, kind of like a quick little P sound. N is in noodle. And one interesting thing, the letter W in the Hawaiian language can either be pronounced as we pronounce W, or it can be pronounced like a V, depending on who exactly you're talking to in Hawaiian. Sometimes you'll hear the sound is kind of like somewhere between a V and a W. And then what they consider a consonant is the glottal stop, which is just, you know, like in the word uh-oh, it's that sudden quick stop in the middle. And then there are the 5 vowels, which are very similar to the way we pronounce them in many cases. A is pronounced ah. The letter E is pronounced A, like in sail. They use the I, the long version of I as in seam. O as in boat. And the letter U is pronounced oo as in tool. And you never hear like a little W or a Y sound at the end of a vowel in Hawaiian like we sometimes do. But yes, I mean, in the Hawaiian language, that's all you have, 8 consonants and 5 vowels to cover all the words that they use. And although, interesting thing here, a vowel can be either long or short. Now, if you just see the vowel as it is, like we write in our language, then it's the short vowel. So it's like ah, a, e, o, u. But if it has a line over it, that makes it a long vowel. So you pronounce it for slightly longer than you would for a short vowel. Feel free to break in if you have any questions. Actually, let's see. Get my chat room back up here, just in case somebody wants something.
John, I do have something quick. That I drink Krupnik is actually Steve Van Hefty. He just sent me a text message.
Okay. Hi, Steve. Got it. Okay. So, well, I suppose in a way, this means that Hawaiian language has 10 vowels because whether you're using a short vowel or a long vowel in the word, it can completely change the meaning. I'll give you a couple of examples in a minute. So, hang on a minute here. Okay, there we go. Come on. Now, if you see two vowels stitched together in a word, they're always pronounced separately. So like in our language, if you see E and A together, it would be E or A all together. But no, if you saw that in Hawaiian, it would be Ea. And AI in Hawaiian is Ai, or Ai if you have the glottal stop in between. All right. And little quick info on where the accent goes in words. So if it's a short word, the accent's either on the second to last syllable or on a long vowel. And if it's a long word, then what you do in the Hawaiian language is break that long up into short word units and then follow the short word accent guidelines for each unit. We'll see more examples of that again a little bit later on. But yes, and say one thing, you cannot forget the glottal stop in your word because that will also change the meaning. In fact, look, kou means your, but just one little glottal stop changes that to my. And as for not confusing long and short vowels, the Hawaiian word spelled K-A-N-E with A as a long vowel, that means male. But look what happens if you forget to note that the A is a long vowel. Completely different definition. You see that? So it's between male or skin disease. And I can hear my sister saying, what's the difference? All right, now to the displays. So one display they had at the meeting was of the 4 star families. So these are the major constellations that at least Hawaii uses. So the ones they were on display were specific to Hawaii, but the Polynesians, they probably had similar ideas. And these displays were courtesy of the Imiloa, which is the Astronomy Center of Hawaii. And don't worry, I've got close-ups of these in the next several slides. So this was the one that introduces you to the 4 star families. So if you're now familiar with the Hawaiian language, it's Na Ohana Hoku Eha. So what's this? Modern day chant. Incorporates the use of metaphor to call aspiring navigators to gather up essential provisions before they embark on their voyage to other islands, to settle or to trade or whatever. And they navigated purely by the stars. And out in the middle of the ocean, what else are you going to have to navigate by? And so they called their celestial sphere the Kalani Pa'a. And by noting where the stars were rising and setting, they could identify east and west. And by identifying where certain key constellations are, they could identify north and south. And So, unlike our version of the celestial sphere, which has a total of 88 separate constellations, they really only talked about 4 huge ones stretching almost all the way from north to south across the celestial sphere, one huge constellation for each season. So the next few displays go into the individual ones. So this is the one that shows that is prominent in the night sky during the winter, which for Hawaii constituted the first half of their wet season. And I'm kind of new to the pronunciation myself, so bear with me. Keikao Makali'i. Keikao Makali'i. There you go. The Great Baler of Makali'i, where the baler is a sort of a large dipping, sort of like a large dipper that they use to bail out the hulls of their canoes if they get too filled up with water. Probably one of the most important tools on those long ocean voyages. And, or as they call their mode, the wa'a. And the baler is keika. And so the next one, the bottom half of the picture, this shows you where their baler, their constellation was in relation to our winter sky. It's, sorry, it's a little bit blurry here, but so in this, the top of the picture is north, the bottom is south, west, east, and so their baler stretches all the way from the south to the star Canopus, what we call Canopus. They of course had another name for it, all the way up to the constellation Auriga. And up here are the Hawaiian names for some of the prominent stars and constellations. So in Hawaiian, the star we call Polaris is known as Hokupa'a. Auriga and Capella are known as Hokulei. And then, so here's Auriga. Here's what we call Gemini. Procyon, what they call Puana. To Sirius, which they call A'a. And I keep losing my cursor here, sorry. Orion is not actually considered part of the Baler, but it's prominent there nonetheless, and they call it, Kahei Ona Keiki. And then, let's see, through Sirius, down through, and down here, this was Canopus. Please don't make me try to pronounce that one. But yes, so they basically treated a huge chunk of the sky as one single constellation to help them navigate. So that takes care of winter. Now, in our spring, which is the second half of Hawaii's wet season, the constellation here is known as the backbone. They pronounce it Kaiwikuamo'o. And this is, well, basically it's the backbone of the sky. And it symbolizes lineage and history. It symbolizes your genealogy, symbolizes your ancestors. It's the whole idea of you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've come from. And so, see, take a look at this family. So here's the backbone with Polaris at one end of the backbone and the Southern Cross at the other end. So again, Polaris is Hokupa'a, and this one goes through the Big Dipper, which they call Nahiku, with a separate name for each star in the Big Dipper, just like we have. Down through, arcing down to Arcturus, aka Hokulea, to, let's see, Spica, Ikinalia, Corvus, Me'e, And all the way down to the Southern Cross with, what's this? Dave is requesting to annotate the shared content. All right, yep, go ahead. What do you want?
I just hit a wrong button. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Well, he did identify an interesting feature. The host at least can annotate or write on the presentation, at least in a temporary note if he so chooses. So, heck, I'm going to try. Hanaya Kamalama. Hanaya Kamalama. Why am I not thinking of that song that goes Ramalama Ding Dong? And, well, they also had names for the pointer stars that point toward the Southern Cross, what we call Alpha and Beta Centauri. And the Southern Cross is very important for equatorial and southern cultures because the long axis of it more or less points directly toward the South Celestial Pole. So the Southern Cross was just as important to southern cultures as the Big Dipper and Polaris are to northern cultures. So yes, the backbone, and it's curved much like a backbone. All right, now move on here. Seem to be, wait a minute, shut off the annotation. Now let's see, okay. All right, now I apologize, none of my pictures of this one came out any better than this. So this would be their summer constellation, or the first half of Hawaii's dry season, Manaya Kalani, better known as Maui's fishhook. So this was the enchanted fishhook of the demigod Maui. Yes, the same Maui and the same fishhook in the movie Moana. Anybody's familiar with that? So you can see with this one here. So this is the fishhook, and it includes our summer triangle of Deneb, Piraetea, Vega, Koa, and Altair, Humu. And going down to, it incorporates Sagittarius, Pimoe, and Scorpius. No, I'm not going to try that one either. I might be able to manage Antares, Lehuacona. And so there, that's the one that's high up in the sky in our summer. And then in our autumn, the second half of Hawaii's dry season, this is the last one, Kalupea Kawelo, or Kalupea Kawelo, the kite of Kawelo. It represents a legendary figure named Kawelo who challenges older cousin to a kite competition. And Kawelo's winning the competition was interpreted as a sign that someday he would become a powerful leader. And he did indeed go on to become a king of Kauai Island, the island of Kauai in what's now the Hawaiian Islands. And this star family is supposed to symbolize Hawaii's great chiefs and rulers. And this is the kite with the square of Pegasus forming the center of the box of the kite. Let's see, where's Pegasus? Okay, it doesn't look like they have a name for the whole thing, just for the individual stars. Well, Alpheratz is Malo Kalanipo. And where's, yep, and Sheet is Kakuhihewa. And what's this? What's Mark Lab, or is that Mark Hab? And I don't know which one, can't find that one up there. And well, okay, so the ends of the kite go up to Cassiopeia and Cepheus, Polaula and Kamoi, and down to, let's see, that is, so this is Fomalhaut, what we call Fomalhaut, and this is the constellation Grus, and then the other one goes down to what we call the constellation Phoenix, and this is the star Achernar at the tail end of Eridanus the River with the name of Kalanika Uleleaiwi. I need more practice. So, let's see. And that's their 4 constellations. And then the other big display they had at the meeting was this. This gentleman was demonstrating the Hawaiian star compass. So this is their version of a compass. And this is a graphic of what it looks like. So on this, Akau is the direction of north. Pardon me. Hikina is east. Hema is south, and Komohana is west. And then, but just as importantly, the Hawaiians divided up horizon into 4 quadrants. I'm going to show you here. Representing northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest. So our 4 cardinal directions are the divisions between the 4 quadrants, where northeast is known as Kolau, northwest is Ho'olua, southeast is Malanai, and southwest is Kona. Which is interesting because one of the little towns that I stayed in while I was in Hawaii was called Kailua Kona. And then each quadrant is divided into 7 houses: La, Aina, Noyo, Manu, Nalani, Naleo, and Haka. And then, so that each house individually is, this would be the full name of each house, identifying which quadrant it's in. So that's 28 houses altogether. And then you have 4 more houses for the north, east, south, and west directions. So that's 32 houses altogether. And the Hawaiians and other Polynesian mariners, they identified which way they were going exactly by these houses. And this graphic shows you the directions of each of the individual houses and the directions we think of that correspond to them. So like, for example, let's see, where was Noyo Kolau? Over here. So what they call Noyo Kolau, we call northeast by east. What they call Mano Kolau, we just call northeast. Aina Kolau is east-northeast. And so there is a pattern here. So house La is whichever one in any quadrant is closest to either east or west. Haka is whatever house is closest to either north or south. And then all the other houses go in that same order from La to Haka. And this is the same graphic, only it's also showing you in which house different major stars or constellations rise in the Polynesian sky, in the Hawaiian sky. And it also shows you where this, including where the sun rises on the summer solstice, the equinox, and on the winter solstice. And it shows you where the sun sets on those same dates over here. The stars, they just set on the same houses on the other side of the compass. So if you're in Hawaii, then you'd still be able to see the North Star because you're not quite in the southern hemisphere, but you're far enough south that you'd be able to see the Southern Cross maybe only just above the southern horizon, but you would be able to see it, so you'd be able to identify which way was south. And then by noting which star is rising, noting when a star is rising up here, you'd be able to tell exactly what part of the, what house of the sky you were looking at if you were seeing that star. So I just had a So once you've learned your Hawaiian compass, you've learned which constellation is which, you know which important stars, you'd be able to navigate anywhere at night from one island to another. And that is how the very first Polynesians settled pretty much the entire Pacific Ocean. So, any questions?
So there were many tribes in the Pacific Ocean at that time, like the Hawaiians and the Tongans and the other tribes that were there. Do they all kind of share this knowledge of the skies the same way, or this is mostly only known to the Hawaiian people?
Well, this is the Hawaiian version of it. Other Polynesian cultures, they would have had their own compasses. They also had somewhat different languages. I mean, they all evolved from the same root like a couple thousand years ago, but they did evolve over time to the point where different islands do have different languages and presumably different names for various stars and constellations.
Okay.
Other questions?
I think you did awesome with the Hawaiian pronunciation there, Doc.
Thank you, considering I've only been trying this for a few days. Well, I will say one thing about the Hawaiian language. If you see any letter in it, you automatically know how to pronounce it. So it's not like English where it's like pronounced totally differently from word to word. If in Hawaii, if it's spelled the same, if it's spelled the same, it sounds the same. You just got to watch out for between long and short vowels. Don't confuse men with skin diseases. Looks like Cecil just joined. So if anybody wants it, I can make this presentation available. As I said, I'm recording the meeting now, so you can either view it there, or I could send you the PowerPoint slides if you want. So, any other questions? Well, if there are no other questions, then next on the agenda is John Baker's presentation. So let me just unshare my screen here. There we go.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Matt, can you unmute yours? And Paul, can you unmute yours? These guys are part of my presentation. Actually, Matt should be giving this presentation. We got together couple times over the past few weeks on clear nights to do a virtual observing. And by virtual observing, I mean Matt would set up his telescope at his house. Paul would set up his telescope at his house. Jim Rutenbeck joined us one night. And Jason, you joined us one night too, didn't you? And I set up my telescope at my location, and we all connected with a program similar to this. And it wasn't Zoom, it was called Blue Jeans, right, Matt?
Yep.
And Matt, I don't know, you have the subscription to it because you're the one that initiated the meetings every time. And
Yeah, I have a paid subscription to Blue Jeans. Blue Jeans is very, very similar to WebEx or Zoom. The main advantage of Blue Jeans is that it's almost entirely idiot proof. There's only 4 buttons on it. It's like mute video, or like mute yourself, mute your sound, mute your video, share your screen. I mean, that's pretty much it. So the beautiful part about it is that as we were clicking through different images and different targets throughout the night, we could immediately share what we were capturing and get instant feedback from each other about what was working and what wasn't working. Or when, you know, me or Paul are sitting on a 2-hour acquisition session, we can mess around with whatever Jason's got going on, what John's going on. And, you know, socializing the astronomical is pretty sweet.
it was kind of cool. Paul has to step away from his laptop about 5-6 feet to focus his telescope. And Matt and I, Paul would share a screen so we could see the focus on his CCD camera. And Matt and I would tell Paul, you know, through his speakers, whether it was getting better or worse as he was turning it when he couldn't see the screen because he was too far away from the laptop. And it was kind of amazing that we were able to help him focus his telescope virtually through the computers.
Yeah.
And too, John, that one time you're like outside of the distillery trying to figure out where M51 was. And as you're like moving it around, I could be like, no, go the other way.
That's right.
Yeah. No, it was pretty great. Along with focusing, he also helped me frame an object. Like I pulled up like the Western Veil, which is really dim. I'd never really imaged it before, and just Matt looking at the stars in the field of view, you know, forget the nebulosity. He was able to kind of look at my screen and get it framed from where he was at, and kind of help me, you know, turn my focuser so I could get a really good framing of that object. So I mean, it was a lot of fun to do.
So I would recommend it if you guys want to join us sometime next clear night. Check with Matt, see if he's going to fire up his Blue Jeans, and he'll send you an invite. And it's a fun time.
At one point, like when we were building the website QCAS.org, I had everybody sign in and like check a box whether they wanted to be involved in an email list called Observing Buddies. Well, I think it's time to actually invoke Observing Buddies at this point, because I could use that to easily forward out the Blue Jeans invite to anybody that wants to do it. Now, I would say that if you want to get on one of the Blue Jeans calls, you're probably going to want to have a laptop and not just be like using a phone while you're doing it, because that way you can participate with it. I know Jason's on here. At some point, we should all like get together and figure out who would want to be involved in something like that, and we'll get everybody added to that email list so it's very easy to send an invite to everyone who wants to do it.
Yeah, I would reinforce what these guys were saying. It was a lot of fun. I have a pretty slow internet connection, and so I probably was annoying to them. But you know, it may not be as neat if you were just doing visual, but photography, you can share the screens that you have, show what photos you've got coming up, and as you guys said, you know, even try to do some troubleshooting. So it's really cool. And I mean, just think, you could include somebody that lives in Alabama or Australia. Well, maybe the might not be dark at the same time, but just around the country, really interesting. So I guess, now with Mike and I being in Florida, we can still touch in with you guys, even observing when we're gone. So very cool. Thanks for allowing me to join you guys.
Oh yeah, anytime, Jim. And that brings up a really good point. Yeah, because a lot of times we can't do astronomy together when these snowbirds take off and leave us back here. But I mean, yeah, that's not the case in our now easily connected world, for sure. The other part of this, in that John can talk more about, Paul hooked John up with a server that he's got at the distillery there, that we've all started pointing our lights and calibration frames at that. And so not only are they stored in one place where everybody could get at everybody's data and have a processing it, but you could also, with remote desktop, if John's cool with it, you can get in and process them on that server, and it's a freaking beast. I mean, it tears through Deep Sky Stacker like it's nothing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's got 24 cores, or actually 12 cores, but multi-threading, 24 processors, 24 threads at the same time, and it just flies.
I don't know how easily we could take over this presentation, but I don't know, if I can figure it out, I can probably show you some of the stuff I've acquired. I've had a pretty rough go of it, astronomy-wise, the last couple of weeks with just stuff not working, and my camera's getting really, really noisy, and it's an old age. I got to get a new one, but let me see if I can't figure out how to steal this from down here.
There you go.
All right, sweet. It's all right. Well, this is another thing I've been working on, because you guys can apparently see my screen, right? You know how? Okay. I'm gonna, one of these days when I get around to it, I've been monkeying around with my frames. I'm trying to figure out why, when I'm processing, you guys down, why when I'm processing my data, I get such inconsistent results from shooting one night to the other. So if anybody's never seen it before, this is what a bias frame looks like. A bias frame is just a frame that you take at the fastest possible shutter speed in the case of my camera, or the lowest, the fastest setting on a CCD. You look black. It looks just like a dark, but the information in here is very different than the info in a dark. So this is a dark. What I did is I zoomed in on this to show, these are the hot pixels in my camera, which it's a hot mess. All right, the thing's just getting old. So you can see all the red ones that are stuck on, all the green ones that are stuck on. Not a lot of blue, but there's a blue right there. You take these calibration frames so that in post-processing, you can kind of cancel this garbage out of your image data. So this is a dark frame, but I stretched it out. So not only are there just hot pixels in there, there's all the same hot pixels that were there, they're there before. There's all this extra noise. This is noise from the heat generated inside the camera. Also, just another thing that's polluting your data that you need to be able to computationally get out. This is what Paul and I have been talking about for, the last 2 months. This is the bias frame. So this is when I actually stretch the first black image that I showed you. There's nothing you can do about this. It doesn't matter how cold you get your camera or how clean your camera is. It's always going to be using photons to pick up the photons, which generates electrical noise in the sensor. So what you're actually seeing here is the path of the electricity through my image sensor as it's reading it. So it's just another thing that you got to cancel out if you're trying to get really good data in deep sky. And then this, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this as well as I can here. This is a flat. So flat shows the vignetting of the telescope itself. This is looking through my reflector. So you notice the reflector, it looks like it's way darker down here than it is on these sides because this is the direction where the focuser tube is. So everything inside the reflector is casting a shadow. That shadow is incredibly out of focus because you're focused at uber infinity, and all of this is, you know, within the optical tube. But this shows that in here you've got good illumination of the sensor that tapers off at this direction. So you take a flat frame so that you can computationally boost everything over here so that you get a nice clean illuminated image. But I don't know how well you guys can see this, but when I stretch to this, I just hit auto tone in Photoshop. You actually can see underneath it, there's pink and green areas. That's my heat current, that's my bias current. So even in this image where it was a perfectly blue flat surface when I took it, by stretching it out, all of this garbage is still in here. I don't know if it means I'm in the camera or what. Yeah, I'm gonna eventually put this together into a little presentation so that everyone can actually, I'll like explain it more in depth, and I'll post it on the website. Just haven't gotten to it yet because I haven't gotten. What I was gonna do with that was process like 10 lights without any calibration frames, and then reprocess them again, just adding more and more calibration frames so you can watch how it actually helps the final image. But I got some issue with my lights. I don't understand it. I might have to have John help me out with that one. This here going into my Dropbox. This is the Cat's Eye server. Now, not everybody sees the folder with its own name, but I can share anybody into this. I would have to warn you that if you don't have a paid subscription to Dropbox, there's already enough data in this bad boy that they're not even going to let you in it. If we look at properties here, there are 61 gigs of data in there. So you need to have at least 61 gigs available in your Dropbox account to be able to even view this. Let's do, well, here, this is, we decided one night, one of the nights that we were all hooked up, to do F51 shootout. And this is just me discovering another problem that I have with my light frames. I mean, I've got a lot of good data here, but it's just so dirty and noisy. And notice all of this vignette, like on the sides here. It's just, I mean, there's so much blackness. I've got some uneven illumination that I'm unable to adequately process out right now. And to pull this one over, Leo Trio. Can't remember what that one's called. Hamburger Galaxy. Yeah, and then M something and M something. I'm a terrible astronomer. Sorry. I reprocessed my cooling tower. I stretched the heck out of it just to see all the data, but I gotta find one of these that's not trashed, and I'll show you. That's old. 8th. Well, here, this is just like unprocessed, but single light of the Ring Nebula shows up really, really small on mine. But I noticed this, which I didn't even process these. So as you're looking at here, they're just out of focus. So even though my software was saying that I had good focus, the full width half maximum on these stars was under 3. I don't know if it was just the seeing or what, but my focus was terrible. Yeah, I've been struggling. Yeah, that's just figured I'd show you all that. A little bit of the monkey business we've had going on. I don't know, John, you want me to, you got anything in your folder to putz around and show them?
Yeah, I might hear in a second, but I also wanted to mention, another good thing with this virtual connection meeting is that you can teach people how to do things over the internet like this instead of, I remember Craig Cox used to come over to my house and I'd show him things to do in Photoshop and how to do stacking. And I used to go over to Jim's house and help him on his computer. And with this new technology, we don't physically have to be there anymore. we can help you, or you can help other people over the computer like this by sharing your screen. So it's a pretty slick technology. As far as my screen, let me see what I have here real quick. This computer is not my laptop. I do have a bunch of pictures, older pictures I can show you, but
John, while you're looking, can I ask Matt a question? Matt, what are you using for a light source for your flats?
If you give me a minute, I can show you. Yeah, hold on. This is kind of fun.
I thought this was interesting. It looked like he had a screen that he's using for his flat, so it gives you a lot of flexibility, not have to wait for the sun to be in the right position to illuminate it. And you just make those flats at nighttime. So John, sorry to interrupt you.
no, that's okay. I was looking, I thought he sent me a picture on my phone here. I was looking for that same picture that you were talking about, but he's gonna go get it and show it to us. So let's see, how do I get back to my WebEx here? That looks like he's back.
So here, that's the trace board. This is a European A3 size trace board. What's cool about it, I wish it had its own power. It doesn't.
What size did you say it was, Matt?
It's a A3, Alpha 3.
Okay.
So that's the board. It lights up. So you have a perfectly illuminated, even white surface. I just stick it right on top of my telescope. And since I'm shooting perfectly flat, even light, I get a perfect flat. Actually, it's pretty bright.
And you can vary the intensity.
Yeah, it's got 3 levels, so it's like, I'm just shining on me, so you can see it 1, 2, 3. That's obnoxiously bright.
Do not stare directly into it.
Share my screen, share content. You guys see my screen there?
Yep.
What I wanted to show you was we were talking about the server that Paul gave us to use. All we have to do, load desktop into it. We can set anybody up with access to it. And here I am connected to this monster server that's got 24 cores of power on it. And we've loaded Deep Sky Stacker on it, Registax, Stellarium, Astro Stacker. So for example, if I ran Deep Sky Stacker and wanted to load some pictures on here, I don't even remember what folder this was, M51. I'm just going to grab make this a little bigger here. I have a few of them here and they'll come up. Check all. Got 17 pictures in the You can see how fast it's flying through there. I think it's only getting 1 or 2 stars, so it might not stack. I know some of you guys, after all your flats and biases and blah, 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 you have over, hundreds and hundreds of pictures out there, and this machine here will stack them all for you in a lot less time than it would on one of your home computers. Let's see here. If anybody's interested in getting a log on for this thing, we'll set you up and show you how to connect to it.
John, just for fun, since you're in there anyway, just take all the stuff out of my May 8th folder and stack it real quick. It'll do it in like 2 minutes.
Hang on a second, let me clear these. How do I do that?
Clear list.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Where's it at now?
It's going to be in the Dropbox.
Yeah, Dropbox on here yet.
Oh, come on now.
That's all right. Hold on.
Probably Sherman 20 lights, yeah.
What's it?
Go into me and then look for the one that's like May 8th. Yeah, May 8th, 2020. It's a folder.
Oh, the name of the maze.
Right there.
51 shootout?
Yeah, do that one.
So I just go to offset bias files over here for these.
Yeah, I think you probably got to close it because it's trying to open lights right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The lights here. These are actually, okay. I think they're pulling them through the network. Come on.
Oh, they're not actually on it. Well, I got to work then.
Not very fast.
No, that'd probably take you an hour. Don't even worry about it.
Wait a minute, see Dropbox on here.
Yeah, but I don't think you probably just don't have it set up yet to actually pull that folder to the
Because I think I
server.
tried it that first time. I started copying all of my stuff into there, which I didn't want. Yep, I need to get.
There's another clear night. We can get a few more people involved. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. C drive, it's got 558 gigabytes, and there's a D drive, almost 3 terabytes. Paul, do you have stuff? One. File. should stack now. There's 50 files that all had out there with FIT files. And it'll fly right through them in probably, you know, five minutes here. Paul, do you remember doing this on your computer, on your laptop at home, how long it took to do these?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, takes a little bit.
I mean, when it's using all the processors, you see it flashing down in the middle at the bottom of this white box. And when it says 24 cores, 24 processors, it's, and, it's hardly using any of the CPU right now. That was fast. Already into stacking.
Stacking, it's actually working the whole thing, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm a little worried how that's going to turn out because I don't think I was guiding, so it might be a hot mess. But
Well, at least we can show them the power of what this thing
yeah.
will do.
So while that's cranking, Robert, do you want me to jump quick to the few items in case anybody else has to drop off with things we talked about for Mankey and Truman?
Hey, John, guys, go ahead, Alan.
You want me to present what I have here?
Go right ahead. Go right ahead, Alan.
Okay, excuse me. Several folks have asked what I use for planning observing sessions. And I don't know that I've got a really super app for that. But some people have asked, you know, what kind of software I use, and it's a spreadsheet that is a big encompassing list of objects that I have encountered over the years, either in observing lists like from the Astronomical League or from various books or Sky and Telescope magazines, you know, various places. And I've been compiling this list, and I put it into a large Excel spreadsheet. And it's got probably, I'd have to look at it. It's probably got 600 or 700 objects in it. And it's been my goal to try and observe those objects. And I haven't succeeded in doing it yet, but I have an example of this here. I'll just show it if I can figure out how to. Is this something I can share while you're doing your thing here?
Well, this is just about finished here. I'll give it about 20 more seconds here.
Okay.
Then you can.
I'll show you what I've got here after you're done. Cool.
Look how fast it brings up the entire picture. It flies. Okay, yeah, you,
That wasn't too bad, actually.
what's that?
So that image, that final image, that stack is actually, that's really good.
Save it for you? Actually, it should be saved out there for you.
I think I've stacked it a couple times, a couple different ways, but
What can you do with this image that you've got here now?
so you can align the colors a little bit better, and
I would take that into Photoshop on my laptop. We don't have Photoshop on the server, unfortunately. And anything we can do with the luminous to bring that out here or not?
So this is an image that you can start to play with then, like in Photoshop.
Yep. By stretching it. Once
Tease out the
stretch this,
detail.
yeah, all of his detail will come out. Not it. Yeah, if we took this image and brought it into Photoshop and played with it, stretched it with levels and curves, it would bring out the image. Oops, I think I just got my remote desktop. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing here. Let whoever take over, I'm going to put myself on mute. Anybody who's not on mute, please go ahead and mute their microphone.
Okay, you want me to continue where I started?
Please.
Okay. So like I say, I've been working on an observing list. And let me see if I can figure out how to share something here. Let's see. Is it? Yeah, that's what I want. Are you seeing this spreadsheet here?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, what I have here is a PDF of the Excel spreadsheet. Let me go to the Excel spreadsheet. So this is the same thing, but this is the actual generator that I use to generate observing lists. And basically how I have it set up here, this is what's generated. So this is all the raw data that's in there. So I've got everything listed by constellation and the object name and a description and the coordinates of it, right ascension declination. And basically the way this works is I put in the position on the Earth's surface. So I just had this set up for Moline, but I could set it up for any place. And put in the clock time and whether or not it's daylight savings time. And the date, obviously. And now this is not extremely precise, but it's accurate enough to calculate on each one of these objects whether it's above the horizon or not for the time that I put in. So if the constellation has a negative number here, it's below the horizon. So you don't, it won't come out in my list. I call it the NIABE list, but basically I got a little macro that goes in there and hand picks all the objects that are above the horizon. So everything that's like 10 degrees above the horizon at the time and date for my location. And so, for example, here, this was set up for 9 o'clock daylight savings time. Everything that you see in this list, and there's about, in this case here, there's 353 objects. All of those objects are visible at that time. And so what I've got in the list here, well, basically what I show here is the, over here on the right, this is your right ascension and declination. Then in the middle here is a description and what the object is, the name of it, and you know, if it has a kind of a common name that's in there. It's listed by constellation, so it's kind of nice. So like if you want to, like right now, a good constellation to go to would be Canis Venatici. Go in there and here's all the objects that are in Canis Venatici. And I show here the first two columns here are altitude and azimuth. So number one, this kind of gives you a good feel for where you're going to point the telescope roughly. If you're going to be star hopping, or if you're going to use setting circles, you know, something like that, you might want to at least get a rough idea of where you're going to point the scope to start with. But the other thing that's kind of nice is it shows you roughly where it is. So if it's 54 degrees, you know, or less than 180 degrees, like Bootes would be here, you know, it's in the east. And the altitude is fairly high. So that would be a good calculation to start looking at 2100, because, you know, it's going to be up for a while. And Canis Venatici is pretty good. Now you can see Canis Venatici, everything is almost 90 degrees. So it's straight overhead. So for your astro imagers, Canis Venatici would be a really good one to look at this time of year. And here's all your objects. Here's M51, Whirlpool Galaxy, Croc's Eye Galaxy. You know, here's there's some cool ones in here. M3. These are some nice objects. The other thing I'll point out, this is a mishmash of objects too. There's galaxies, there's planetary nebulae in here, there's double stars, there's carbon stars, various objects out here. These are all things that I've just kind of mishmashed together. Double stars, if you're interested in double stars, there's got to be 150 double stars in here probably. And I show the magnitude of the doubles, magnitude A and magnitude B. So magnitude A typically is the brighter one, and magnitude B is the secondary one. Somebody wants to annotate? Paul? I can improve that if you want to.
I say, Paul, if he wanted, this would be perfect for you, Paul, if it had the size of the objects on there too.
So that I was going to ask that. I didn't understand what the separation was, but
Oh, that's arc seconds. So, for example, 37 Theta Arugae is a 2.6 magnitude and 7.1 magnitude with a separation of 3.6 arc seconds.
so is that like size in our sky?
Yeah, that's 3.6 arc seconds is pretty close.
So that's really, really interesting because, you know, I feel like I kind of have a tweener telescope with 127 millimeters. It's not great for galaxies, but it's okay for some galaxies. And when you try to find a list based on magnitude, that really doesn't help you because, you know, you're going to get things that are really bright but small. So I've been looking for large galaxies just in And I mean, it's even hard to even search on that. But it looks like you have it.
I know this is one of these things that I've wanted something like this, and I'm not saying it's perfect. There's probably errors in here, and I do occasionally find errors. I try to correct them, and I do make additions to it when I stumble across things I like, or if somebody tells me about something, I put it in. But basically what I've done is like about once a month, I sit down and I just generate these lists, and I try to go like maybe every couple hours. So like I've got one here that I generated at 2100, and then I've got another one that I generated at 2300, and then I've got another one at 1 o'clock in the morning, and so on. And I can generate PDFs of those, so it's a kind of a nice thing that you can put on your clipboard. You don't have to have a computer in the field unless you want one, but you can put this in your computer too. The nice thing about that is you could actually go in and how do you unannotate? There we go. But you can go in and you know, I'm not sure I know what I'm doing here now. Does anybody know how to turn this off here? There we go. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, just to give you a flavor, this is what I have, and I think Matt, did you put? I think we put these out on the club website, didn't we?
Yeah, I was just actually looking at it. The lists are up from March through December. I must have spaced out and not did January and February for some reason.
Yeah.
I can actually
I did them for all last year.
Unshare, Al, and I'll show people where to find them.
Okay, sure. Stop sharing. Okay. Go ahead.
All right, I'll be right there. Let me close this. All right, so, all right, can everybody see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, good old QCastro.org, the most under-maintained website in all of astronomy. If you're here and you go to astronomy stuff, it's the first thing that comes up, observing list by Mr. Scheidler. Now I had these, I was doing them, I started doing them March last year. I guess I got through December. I'll have to look to see if I have February and January somewhere. But like, just like he was saying, if you click on this, there's your PDF. It just comes right up. Totally printable. You would just, you know, print screen right from there, and you could take this out with you. Where are you at now? We in May. This is May 18th, so this is tonight. And I mean, yeah, I think Al, these would be off technically by what, an arc second or something like that, because it's a year later. But
Yeah,
you take this list out right now, it'd work.
The coordinates aren't going to vary that much on these fixed objects. The year really doesn't matter. But for the planet positions, those are going to be all wrong, obviously, because those are a year out of date. The program generates the orbital positions too. They're not extreme precision here. This just kind of shows you roughly. So on that particular date there, that would show you that basically you're not going to be able to see Mercury. You can see Venus in the morning. You can see Mars, you know, so forth. And but you know, I can generate these. I try to generate these for both the clubs, and I always try to have one or two of these lists with me when when I go out to the field for an observing session because it's so handy. And sometimes if you don't, if your go-to system doesn't have the coordinate, you can use the right ascension and declination coordinates as well. Or if you're using setting circles, that's a good way to get your objects too. So anyway.
Yeah, one ambitious thing that Al and I were talking about over the winter, and it's one of the reasons that I'm kind of working with everybody to get my astro imaging down cold, is I think it would be fun to go through and image everything on that list. I mean, it's like a major, probably decade-long project for even a handful of people to go after, but it would be a lot of fun. Ken brought up that it's going to be really hard to get some of those doubles, but I'm not afraid to try.
Actually, Matt, I've been playing around with double stars, and I think if you get the correct magnification, a lot of those are doable, and they're just snapshots. I mean, it's not the kind of thing that you're going to have to stack thousands of images. The double stars on this list, most of them are bright enough that a nice snapshot, it might be a few seconds time exposure would do the job to bring out the field stars in the neighborhood and so forth. But a lot of the double stars, I think, are very doable.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I might have some examples. I don't know if I can find them under pressure here, but while we're talking here, I'll see if I got some double stars I can show you. Double stars. Yeah, here we go. Let's see. I got one here I can show you. Let's see if I can remember how to. Again. Okay, there's Alberio. Now that's a wide double, and this was a cropped image, so it's fairly wide. I think I may have taken this. I don't remember what telescope I used for that. It was probably a refractor though. But you can see the colors. And I think Alberio's got about a 25 to 30 arc second separation. So this gives you an idea of the separation. It's a wide double. It's easy to split. And it's very bright. So it doesn't take a whole lot to get that one. And let me see what else I got here. I think Jeff was asking me about double stars, and I put some together. Did Jeff ever join us?
Unfortunately, no.
No. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, he sent me a text and he said they were just about ready to hook up the cable that had to from the pole for some reason. So I don't know if it's gonna be ready before we're done.
It reminds me of.
I applaud Jeff for actually getting internet just for this presentation, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was like Green Acres where you had to climb up the pole to get to the telephone. Anyway, here's a double star. This is Beta Scorpii. Here's Xi Scorpii. And you can see now, I don't know how well you can see that. I don't know if I can make this bigger. See if I can make it bigger. Actually, there's two doubles in here. There's one here. You can see the one is much smaller than the other one. And then there's another double further down that's dimmer. I could have probably done a better job with the photography, but if I can do it, I think anybody can. I think people that are really good with cameras could do much better. Here's Gamma Delphini. That's a nice double also. You can see the colors.
Are these just single frames that you shot with a camera?
Yeah, these are just snapshots. So like on Gamma Delphini, what did I do here? That's 9.6 arc seconds separation. That was taken with the Nikon D90, 10-inch Meade LX200, focal length 2,500 millimeters, ISO 3200, 1/10 of a second.
I just wonder how something like that would turn out if you used took a short video of it and ran it to Registax or AstroStacker to
Yeah.
pull out just the really high quality frames.
Yeah, I'm sure that people know, like you guys that really know how to do this stuff, you can really do better pictures. But even somebody who just goes out primitively, like I have done with just a DSLR and took a snapshot, you can get, a picture of a double star. It's not that tough.
Yeah.
Not that tough at all. And now some of these ones that are really tight doubles that are close. See this one here, what did I say this one was? See, that's 9.6 arc seconds. Well, you can see with this setup here, if you had something that was 4 or 5 arc seconds, you might not be able to split it. That'd be pretty close. You might be able to see it visually, in your scope, but I don't know if the setup I had there would have been good enough to really split that double with the camera.
Yeah, Mizar.
I do have Mizar someplace. I don't think wait a minute. I've got Tatooine. How about that? Yeah, here's Mizar.
Yeah, that's split real nice.
Yeah, that's a nice one. That's a nice one too. And like I say, it's fun. It's easy here. What was this one here? That's a nice one there too. 74 Piscium. How do you say that?
Piscium.
Piscium. 30 arc second separation. See, that's a nice one. That looks like a nice double.
I got a question for you there, Al.
Yeah.
Is this prime focus, or were you holding this up to an eyepiece doing this?
That's prime focus. No eyepiece. This is the yeah, this is prime focus. If I said it was 2,500 millimeter or millimeter focal length, and I didn't talk about eyepiece projection, I'm pretty sure that's just prime focus. Yeah.
Well, that gives me a lot of hope actually, because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the club has a Meade like a 10-inch f10 available. So I mean, yeah, this is a lot more doable than I was thinking it was.
It's doable. It is doable. I how close the separation you can get, but these ones that are wide, like 8, 10 arc seconds, or 37 arc seconds, those are easy to split. You can do that, and they're bright. So a couple second exposure is all you need for a lot of these. I don't think I have a lot more images of double stars, but I would challenge the group to try and do double stars. I think they should be easier than some of these really dim fuzzy things.
Well, yeah, especially if you can get it in and your focus is right and the atmosphere is cooperating. I mean, you're really talking about one and done shots here.
Right. So it'd be kind of fun to have a catalog of all those objects.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking too. And then have them not as zoomed in as you've got them here, but more a realistic view of what someone would find through the eyepiece at, say an 800 to 1,200 millimeter telescope, like a lot of people have.
Yep. So I don't know if I have anything more here really to to share. Matt, if you want some other lists that you don't have, I thought I sent them to you, but if you check your email and you find out they're not,
Al, I'm sure they're there, man. Just I don't know. This year's been weird, obviously, for everyone. But I'll look back in the old archives. I bet I'll find them there.
okay, if you don't have them, let me know. I can generate an up-to-date list if you would prefer to have that.
So hey, if you don't mind, like, because I put the dates of each one of those and included the year, you think it wouldn't be deceitful to just annotate at the top that these are all lists from 2019 or 2020, but they should be good for the date ranges that they're presented. Say the one that's for tonight, for instance. I mean, it's technically from 2018, but I could just explain up at the top that it doesn't really matter that on the list it says 2019, you know.
Yeah, the objects aren't moving significantly. The fixed objects have the same right ascension and declination numbers from year to year within a very small, few arc seconds of change. I think the numbers I use is from the year 2000 anyway, so they're not correct either, but they're close enough that it'll center it in your eyepiece pretty close. If you dial those numbers into your scope, it should be there. And the only thing I use the right ascension declination numbers for anyway is just to determine if they're visible or not when I generate the list. So the objects are right, but the thing I like about it is the for that date and time, those objects are all visible. You don't have to, get your planisphere out or anything to try and figure out if the constellation's visible. If it's on the list, it's visible.
Yeah, my favorite part about it, honestly, is I've gone a couple of nights just visual astronomy going after double stars because it's really good for your eyes and it's really good practice, to be honest with you, to go after double stars once in a while. It keeps your eyes sharp. But sometimes, like you're saying right now, is it Canes Venacci or whether it's straight up in the sky? Well, I don't know every double star that's in there, but they're on this list. And you got the colors on there and everything, you know where to look for it. So it's perfect.
Canis Venatici. There are some double stars. Cor Caroli, that's a real nice one. Alpha Canum Venaticorum. 2.9 magnitude, 5.5 magnitude, and 19 arc seconds. So that's a nice one. I would challenge. I got a picture somewhere of that one. I'll have to see if I can find it. But I would challenge Matt. I would challenge you to photograph that one. I think that would be a good one. There's enough.
I may have incidentally photographed that actually. Where is it?
Did you photograph it?
No, just looking at the azimuth on it. It's not going to be in any of my other images because we've been shooting the Whirlpool Galaxy in M106, but it's not close enough to those.
Yeah, I shot it in one of the recent sessions, but I don't know if I could find it under pressure here. But I can tell you that's a nice one.
Actually, M3. I mean, like I have a
beautiful
300mm scope, so if I had M3 in the frame, I would have probably both of those in the frame. Actually, all three of them, I bet.
Depends on how wide your field is.
Well, I shoot as wide as 400mm. That's a pretty big chunk of the sky you're talking about there. I should have said that. It's kind of a small piece of the sky from the aspect of a 400mm lens.
There's M3.
But is that a 2500mm? Because it looks like it is.
That's probably 2500.
Yeah, because that's in there. That's a really good shot too.
And That's just a snapshot. So it might have been a 20-second exposure, but it's just one frame.
I'm sorry to interrupt here, but it's getting by what, 8:45? And does anyone have any? We do have one more item on the agenda that we do need to talk about. But does anyone have any further questions for Alan before we move on? Well, this is an important item. At our last board meeting, Jeff, Paul, and Sam and I were discussing rules for observatory use and attendance during this crazy time. And Paul Seeger, if you've been working on rules for the observatory.
Yeah, did Jeff send out an email with that, or are we?
I don't think so.
I didn't
Okay.
notice any, no.
Shoot. I wish I had it up, but an email is going to be going out with kind of the details that we talked about. But the idea is we want everybody to be safe, and we still want people to be getting out. So we kind of talked about putting a limit on the number of people at the two different locations. I think one item we talked about is we really want to, for right now, limit to members of the society. And we talked about wanting to limit the number of people that are in the buildings. So the main building at Mankey, we want to try to limit to 2. So if there's 4 people out there kind of rotating, who's using their facilities, who's warming up, things like that. Also limiting the number of things that we touch. So basically we're just scratching off things like the coffee maker, the water machine, the refrigerator, and trying to limit the number of people that are using the same outlets. So I know we have 3 pads with electric, and then there's one, I think there's a 4th outlet somewhere on the building. Robert, you would know more about where that is.
I'm not sure myself. I think we said it was on the east side of the classroom.
So, I mean, one of those things, it's just trying to, keep a distance and limit the number of things that we're touching. But obviously, we still want people to be getting out. If you send an email to the latest list of members that that you'd like to go, that's just kind of claiming your spot. And if you want to include other people that you've talked to that you want to go as well, but I think we want to limit it to, was it 5 total people at Mankey and 4 at Sherman, a little bit smaller, less space.
I don't remember the exact numbers.
But things are going to be going on. Obviously, using the 20 is really kind of if you've talked to somebody and you want to use the 20, obviously you're going to be touching the scope. There's so many things to touch with that scope: the eyepieces, the extensions, the scope itself, the computer. So, if you're not comfortable doing that, then obviously you won't. But if you're going out with somebody that you are, that's up to you. But we want to limit the number of people in that building as well to 2. And I think that's what we discussed at our meeting. But obviously, we'll send an email out with a little bit more specifics. But the key is to just communicate that it's something you want to do. You want to go to Mankey, you want to go to Sherman. These people are going with you, and kind of keep it to that.
I do remember we said anybody who goes into the building needs to wear a mask.
I think we should buy some of these for the club.
Those are very nice, John. Keep your distance.
That'll enforce our social distancing.
I love it.
Pretend you have rings.
No, I think we should actually buy them.
So, but not like it matters. Looks like it's going to be cloudy for the next 3 months. So, It'll be over.
That is, Paul. It's because I actually ordered an L enhance.
Why did you do this for? It was literally showing sun all week long.
I know. I know.
All just changed on a dime.
I almost bought a paracord. We would have been hosed all summer.
Oh, before we go, if anybody has a Polemaster they're looking to unload, let me know. Usually we go through things, the wanted, the looking to sell, looking to buy, what I just bought, but I'm still throwing away 1 in 4 images, even guiding, because I don't have a Polemaster and I'm really bad at it. That's all I have, Dr. Mitchell.
Well, as soon as Jeff does send out the email with the observatory attendance rules that we drafted, we'll send it out to the rest of the club, and I don't know, we were hoping to have time to discuss it during this. Maybe we can discuss it in an email chain instead.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right. Does anybody have any new items that they want to bring up in the time we have left? Going once. Going twice. Well, last question. What do you think of? So how do you think this virtual meeting went?
For me, it was very informative. I enjoyed it.
It's good to hear.
It went very well.
Then if things don't change much between now and next month, we could try doing this again.
Yes, definitely for me.
All right.
Yeah, I thought it was great. You know, I live quite a ways away from the Quad Cities, so it makes it simple for me to join you all.
Okay. So, well, those of you who weren't here at the very beginning, I've been recording this meeting for the cloud that WebEx uses for those things. It usually takes a few hours before they automatically send the email with the link. So once I get the link, I will forward it to the rest of the club, and so at least you can have it for review. And again, if anybody would like a copy of the PowerPoint slides from my earlier presentation of Polynesian astronomy, please go ahead and email me. Otherwise,
Dr. Mitchell.
Yes.
If you're able to view it out of Cisco's cloud, if they'll let you download the presentation, I would suggest you add it to your YouTube channel. Then I could post it to the website.
Let me make a note of that. Download meeting from Cisco, post on Ambrose Astro YouTube channel. Okay.
Yeah, then just make sure you make sure you share it with me, and I'll pull it right off of YouTube.
Share the link with you, or share the
link, yes.
The YouTube link.
Absolutely. Yep.
Share YouTube link with Matt. Okay. Depending on file size. All right. So, any other requests, questions?
I saw that. I don't know if everybody's kind of been following, but I've always kind of been interested in the Yerkes Observatory up in, what is it, Lake Geneva? Is that what that area is called?
Williams Bay.
Williams Bay around there, and I saw lately that it's their plan is to reopen. They turned over the ownership, so I'd really like to make a trip up there. So I'm going to be kind of keeping an eye on when they're going to be opening and doing things like that. But I don't know if anybody else has has been there before. I haven't been there since I was a kid.
No, I
I stay
haven't.
as the youngest member of the club, but I'd love to get up there and see. So if anybody's interested in taking a drive, I think that would be fun.
Depending on
I
safety.
got one thing. Yeah, I got one thing for Matt. Hey, Matt,
Yo, Rusty, what up?
I finally got the chance to use that 2X Barlow. I screwed it right onto my Nikon, and it works nice.
Yeah, you just took the Barlow end off and screwed it into the adapter. Yep,
exactly.
Heck yeah, it's a
Yeah,
versatile
it
little
worked
sucker.
perfectly. Yeah,
A neat little trick if anybody ever has a. It's got to be a true 2X Barlow, but if you're using the regular adapters for a DSLR, you can unscrew the Barlow from a 2-inch Barlow and screw it straight into your camera adapter. You end up with like a 1.5 magnification because it's a little closer, but it works like a champ.
yep.
All right.
Anything else?
All right.
Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
I second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
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 All right. Well, thanks for joining the meeting electronically, but thanks for joining.
Have a good one, all.
A good one.
Right.
Stay safe, stay
Have a good
healthy,
one.
and I'll send out a link for next month's meeting. Eventually, yep. Okay.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Bye-bye.